Altogether, the Platts have given us 3 decades of delightful dysfunction on Coronation Street.
I'll put myself in an home, rather than stay here with all this.
David!
If your family's bad, their family's worse. And there's nothing we like better than other people's problems. And as we reminisce over the last 30-odd years, it's no surprise that there aren't that many happy snappies in the Platt family album.
And the happy times always go wrong, sadly.
Fights in the street. Daughter's getting pregnant at the age of 6.
Mum, you don't have to keep reminding me. Carmel, the nanny from hell.
Father's stabbed to death. Stepdad turned out to be a mass murderer. It's kind of like, what?
Look as if you're enjoying yourself.
The Platts don't do things by halves. Between them, they've had 6 weddings, none of which have lasted, 8 kidnaps, 19 trips to hospital, and more end-of-part looks from Gail than Martin's had hot nurses.
I can't do it, I can't do it.
But given the family history, it's hardly surprising.
They're normal in some ways, but they're absolutely mental in other ways.
It's great fun.
But the fun for Gail began long before Martin Platt arrived on the street. In fact, possibly before he was even born.
Looking for me, were you?
It's 30 years ago. It's a long time ago.
With moves like that, it wasn't long before Gail Potter got her hooks into the street hunk.
Chris Quinton, he played Brian.
We're engaged, Gail and me.
You what?
I said we're engaged, ma'am.
And got right up Ivy Tilsley's nose.
Ivy Tilsley, my goodness, what a character she was.
That what it
The
is.
Queen Mother of all mother-in-laws reigned supreme on Coronation Street for 23 years.
What sort of rule? She's not gone 8 yet.
I want to see Gail.
I want to see Gail. Thanks very much.
But while Poison Ivy thrived, the life of Brian was quite literally cut short. And Gail was left to ponder life alone in Coronation Street. But not for long. It was nearly 20 years ago when Mr. Platt first walked into Gail's life. Back then, Gail was still pregnant with Brian's daughter, Sarah Louise, and Martin had a really bad mullet.
Thank you.
But it was 4 years later that things got serious.
I was just throwing the script in the green room. I was just flicking through what I had to do. And of course, I didn't know what was to come until I read it in the script.
And suddenly the script said, Gail smiles at Martin. I thought, no, I don't want to smile at Martin. No reason to. And then the following week, there was Gail smiles at Martin again. I thought, oh, hello, something's going on here. And he was so young. I thought he might turn up.
I think the kiss came as a surprise to Gail and to Martin and to the viewers.
Hey, lucky Gail.
Keep away from
The 10-year age gap turned more than a few heads in Weatherfield.
Gail Tilsley, the local cradle snatcher.
But against all odds, Gail and Martin vowed to stay together forever and live happily ever after. Yeah, right.
There were happy times. There were happy times.
Could only happen to us.
In Coronation Street, there's always trouble in paradise, and after 3 years of wedded bliss, it was high time that those Platts got a bit of a wake-up call. Enter super nanny Carmel Finnan.
Hey, Carmel.
The first rule of being the older woman is don't invite a younger woman into your home,
Except me.
especially if she's hell-bent on stealing your husband.
He's the biggest kid of the lot.
I think we did know that she was going to be the nanny from hell.
She was a weird, sick, twisted witch who tried to steal Martin Platt away from Gail Platt. She does a kind of femme fatale act. And I have to say, with the most awful clothes I had to wear, how is anyone supposed to seduce anyone?
In a purple jumper. Very seductive.
After moving into the family home, Carmel's next move was into the marital bed. Unbeknownst to Gail. And to Martin. Shocking maybe, but not beyond the realms of reason.
I was given this big article about erotomania. That was what her condition was.
You're mad. Do you know that?
No, I'm not mad. I'm just madly in love. The whole point is that you're convinced that the person is in love with you.
It's meant to be. It's destiny, Martin. I know you feel guilty about Gail, but she's not for you.
That was why it was scary, because she was so real. I mean, you believed her, didn't you? I believed her.
Don't believe this. He's not for you, Gail. You're too old for him. You took advantage of him.
Get out of my house. Yeah, I mean, I do always chuckle when there's another get out, get out. How many people has Gail thrown out of that door? I mean, how many ways can you throw someone out of a door? Ouch! And I think that was the start of the bad times. The start of the bad times for the Platts. It worked on from there.
Indeed it was. They may have foiled one fatal attraction, but pretty soon Martin developed a bit of an obsession of his own down at Weatherfield General.
Do you fancy coming to the nurse's Christmas party? Oh, Gail's going to start to wonder where you've got to.
Oh, you see, he's fickle. And they were all younger. It was bound to happen in the end.
Given the shaky foundations the Platt home was built on, it's hardly surprising that the Platt kids are a tad dysfunctional.
I think when Tina and Jack arrived, that's when the Platts took off.
Jack Shepherd was only 12 when he was brought in to give the littlest Platt a whole load of attitude.
David!
Everybody loves David.
That garden's on fire!
He can steal a scene just by a look at the end of it.
Cocky, cheeky.
David's like a lovable rogue, really.
We'll do great Sunday lunches, eh?
When Jack first came in, he was 2.5 foot tall or something.
2 cokes when you're ready, Betty Love.
And I swear to God, he was just the most confident little kid I've ever met.
Oh, yeah. Whatever he's having.
But David's upbringing was a piece of cake compared to poor Sarah Louise.
Tina did arrive for the teenage pregnancy storyline. Pregnant? No. She's 13. My daughter's 13. She's going to have a baby. Please tell me it's not true.
Not only was it true, it was just the tip of the iceberg for the street's favourite drama teen.
Their baby was kidnapped. I just want to be able to hold her and tell her how much I love her. After that, she was kidnapped herself by an internet pervert. And then her mum married a murderer.
I love you.
And they were all kidnapped.
I love you both too, you know.
And then Sarah Lou became pregnant. Oh, no. Then Sarah Lou and Todd got together. Oh, no, before that, sorry. Then...
No wonder the poor girl's confused. Sarah Lou's been through more in her 17 years than most soap characters go through in a lifetime.
It was sort of like an ongoing joke, you know. What else could happen to Sarah Louise in her life? Nobody knows.
Oh, Wade.
You know, if it was in real life, she would be in a psychiatric home, I think, at the moment.
That girl can turn on the waterworks like no one else I've ever seen before. If you tell her to cry, she can do it like that.
There was one scene, actually, it was at Billy's funeral. And they went cut, and she had just gone, and this poor girl was just... She just couldn't stop, and it took about 15 minutes.
Tina may have mastered the art of breaking our hearts, but when Adam Rickett arrived as the second Nicky Tilsley back in 1997, he was destined to be a different type of heartbreaker altogether.
Stuff him.
Now, when I first turned up, I was doing a photo shoot, just a normal photo shoot, and was there getting changed, and the press officer walked in.
Forget about your body, right there.
And she just kind of went, right, we'll use that. Suddenly, Nick was topless in every single scene, which was terribly embarrassing.
They think it's to titillate the young viewers, but I think you'll find it's the older ladies that possibly like it.
It's the jealous wife.
Jealous wives, though, weren't a problem for Nick. His problem was the jealous mother.
I mean, Nick could have come home with, you know, the Virgin Mary, and Gail would have still said, you know, why's your hair that long?
It's Leanne we're talking about. She's the only one I object to, and you know it.
As Gail's golden boy got together with the street's good time girl, suddenly things started to feel strangely familiar.
Gail, in the early days, Ivy'd always be on her back that she wasn't good enough for Brian.
Now, look here, Ivy. I know you think he can't do any wrong, but I'm the one that's all for soldiering on, and he's the one...
And when Leanne and Nick got together, Gail was saying that Leanne was no good for Nick.
We're not doing anything wrong.
Oh, not by your standards, and certainly not by hers. But I set mine a little bit higher.
Oh, why don't you just tell her, Nick?
Tell me what?
I would say to her, my God, I used to do this with Ivy, only you've got my lines and I've got Ivy's lines.
Because we're married.
You what?
I said we're engaged, ma'am.
Well, aren't you going to congratulate us?
I think Gail's turned into Ivy Tilsley. It's just history repeating itself.
Serial killers and teenage mums aren't the only things the Platts have introduced us to. Not a lot of people know this, but they were also the family that brought sex to the street.
Well, that's a milestone. I'm pretty sure that was the first bed scene ever on Coronation Street.
Indeed it was, but it certainly wasn't the last.
Maybe just a quick one, eh?
I've got another present for you. Upstairs.
You'll do very well if you're up to the job.
Oh, well, I'm more than capable, me.
I think Gail's done very well since, actually. You better get down to it then, haven't you?
Sarah's had quite a few dodgy boyfriends.
What is she, the town tart?
I'm still waiting for my girlfriend to come along.
Martin, he's had funny choices of women.
What can we get up to in half an hour? Sally Webster.
I wonder if Gail trained him to do that.
Sally Webster's sister. Kathy Power. Oh, yeah. Rebecca Hopkins.
There's been 2 nurses.
Only to be sociable. You understand? Happy Christmas. Any more?
Well, there was one more. In 2004, we saw the love life of Martin Platt come full circle, as Weatherfield's one-time toy boy became the Coronation Street cradle snatcher.
Well, I sat down in the producer's office and he said, Martin's going to meet a 16-year-old girl and it's not going to be completely illegal, but only just. Are you happy you're staying? So I closed the door and I skipped all the way down the stairs.
I'm starting to like it around here, actually. It was an absolute shock when I found out that we were going to start a relationship, Katie and Martin.
Give us a list.
There's only one thing on it, actually. You. I never told Sean, but the night before we had this big screen kiss. I did not sleep a wink.
Can't sleep?
Nope.
I thought it was good that she was nervous. And I thought it was good that I was quite nervous too. I do feel awkward. But I'm in a situation here that I never expected to be in. I think it created the right reaction.
In true Corrie style, Martin's midlife crisis wasn't with just anyone's daughter, it was his best mate.
Tommy! Me and Katie love each other. We're going to carry on loving each other. And sooner or later, you're going to have to accept it!
And Tommy wasn't the only one lining up to have a pop.
The women that I met around the supermarkets and that were all, you know, get someone your own age.
I constantly get old women coming up and slapping me on the arm or with a bag and just saying, you little bleep or what's it? Leave that Martin alone.
Furtive fumblings with schoolgirl Katie may have raised a few eyebrows. But it was another controversial coupling that shocked the nation and hit the headlines in 2003.
Of course, the street's never done a gay storyline.
Originally, they wanted Nick to turn gay with Todd and those two to set up together. We just said, you know, it just wouldn't have worked. So instead, we turned it around to this thing where Todd turned gay and cracked onto Nick.
I like this. What? Sitting here, talking to you.
We did the scene where Todd kisses Nick as he's falling asleep. We did that first thing in the morning. I had smoked about 80 cigarettes by that point.
You know when you asked if you're going to get to know the real me? Mm-hmm. And I'm not really into smoking, so that was pretty nasty. Never felt this close.
What was that?
After kissing him, I was kind of bit shocked, so I forgot to go in again and try and kiss him again. So that took another 4 takes for me to remember that.
So it was kind of like, you know, I'm awake now.
What the hell is he doing?
As usual, Sarah was the
what?
last to know that although Todd was the father of her unborn baby, she wasn't exactly his type.
Your boyfriend's gay, Sarah.
I mean, watching those two work there was just heartbreaking.
I love you, Sarah.
I don't believe you.
I'll never stop loving you. And I'll never stop loving Beth. And I'll just never stop loving you.
I don't believe you. You're too good a liar.
But in Coronation Street, when there's tragedy, comedy's usually not far behind. Enter Gail Platt as we've never seen her before.
Look, I'll put the kettle on, go home, put some clothes on and come back and we'll talk about it. We don't want to be fighting on the doorstep.
We knew it was coming up and we were quite excited about it.
It was your idea to have a baby! No, she didn't take my persuading, did she? She never does!
Well, we got the scripts for that, and Helen Worth and I were howling.
You're gonna get the...
So I said, I can't hit you. I have to blow on you and you'll fall over.
Go home, Gail.
Helen Worth really got into that.
She scared me. I think even Sue Cleaver was a bit shocked.
Kid of yours has been dropping grandkids since he was 13!
It was quite hard work, actually, but every moment of it enjoyable.
I mean, I don't know if that's the first fight she's ever had on the street, but she's damn well made up for it.
Shut up! What's going on?
Oh, he's the other one! The rest of the village people!
It really was all of Gail's frustration coming out from the last 30 years.
You stay away from my family. All of them. Sarah and Nick. Go home, Gail. And David, come to that. Is he next on your list?
Go home, Gail. Sarah needs you.
Well, she doesn't need you.
That's the thing about those Platts. They can say what they like about each other, but if anyone else tries to come between them, they don't stand a chance.
Friendship?
Don't be all day. We'll be quick.
Anyone, that is, except Richard Hillman, who got his feet under the Platts table back in 2002.
Can we start? Yes.
The hunky-funky housewife's choice seemed too good to be true. And indeed he was. Killing the neighbours was bad enough, but his coup de grace was even closer to home.
What he did was totally split up the family.
You won't see what he's like,
I see what you're like. You're mad. You're flaming crackers.
Will you stop it, both of you?
The worst thing he did was actually to be on her side, or pretend to be on her side.
All any of us has done is try to help her.
It happens, girl. Believe me, in these kind of cases, it happens. It's a classic symptom of dementia.
Don't mess it up too much.
There wasn't a trick in the book our Dick didn't try to make it look like the mother-in-law had lost her marbles.
Audrey, you switched the timer off by mistake.
Is there something wrong with you?
Oh, something wrong with me. And I think it grabbed people's attention. Was Audrey going mad? And was there anybody to tell her she's not?
By the time the penny had dropped with Audrey, no one would take her seriously.
I've said he's trying to kill me. He wants my money. And to me, that was the scariest bit, getting people to believe that he was an evil man.
Not content with making her lose her mind, Tricky Dicky tried to take her life. And just when it seemed like all was lost, it was the great British public who came to the rescue.
I got a bloke, bless his heart, who sent me pictures that he'd taken of Richard up on the ladder taking the battery out of the fire alarm, saying it is proof that Richard is trying to make you go mad, and here is, I've taken these pictures for you, so you can have them and you can show anybody else. So I did. I showed the producer, and that's how we caught Richard Hillman.
Whilst Audrey pulled herself together, Richard started crumbling like the crust on Betty's hot pot.
Think of it as like we're going on a family holiday.
Time for another white-knuckle ride for the Platts, the most accident-prone family in Weatherfield.
There's always trouble somewhere brewing for the Platts.
Playing a Platt in Coronation Street is clearly not something to be taken lightly, as Tina O'Brien found out when she took a terror trip with bad boy Aid Critchley back in 2002.
I'm sat there like this, you know. All of a sudden you find yourself in an upside-down car, and Tina was really, really scared.
The whole car just creaked really loudly. I just freaked out and went, oh no, stop, stop, stop.
And in 2004, it wasn't just Nick's life at risk in the Underworld factory fire.
I could feel my hair starting to burn. The director obviously really liked it, and he was there like, keep rolling.
I think it probably comes in the contract that if you are part of the Platt family, you will at some point in your life end up in hospital.
Thankfully, the Platts are very much alive and kicking and continuing to take Coronation Street to places it's never been before.
I'm sure, you know, the writers just sit there up in the room and sort of say, right, who can we have go off the rails this week? I know, a Platt.
So who knows what the future will hold for those lovable Platts? But one thing's for sure, you'd never want their snapshots in your family album.